One more. Okay, there you go. Just, it's Joburg in the house, right? Wow, right. My name is Mikel Moyo. I don't need to say it again because I know my name. That's always a good time. Basically, quick, long and short of it. Professionally, I am a financial planner, investment banker. Had 3 startups. Went to the hookup dinner. Got hooked up. A month and a half later, sold my company. That's essentially what happened straight after the hookup dinner. That's the kind of snowball effect it was. So, just to start, the people who did pitch tonight, congratulations, well done. You've taken the very first step, right? There are some of you that I grilled a little bit. I do apologize. It's just one of those things enough. Okay. But please keep going, right? Keep going. There will be hurdles. There will be, good days. There will be bad days. It's just one of those things. It's the tough life about being an entrepreneur, right? So how did it start for me? We literally walked into the hookup dinner one night in Joburg, got the email, and we were just like, can we pitch, right? And Dr. Limesgood was there, and he was like, no, you have to, register, blah, 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 blah. We're like, no, but we're going to win, dude. Like, we're going to win, trust me. I'm going to, come on. I'm from Joburg, I'm going to win. Right, so, and that's essentially what it was. So what we created, right, which is what I sold about a month and a half later, was a company called Wolf and Looper, right, wolfandlooper.com. And it was just a financial planning blog, right, for personal financial planning. For students, because I felt, financial literacy is one of those things that's lacking in the country, in the world, okay? So, there we go, we start a thing, we have posts about Jay-Z and Rihanna hitting Chris Brown hitting Rihanna, right? And we're relating all of this stuff back to finance because we wanted it for the youth, right? We wanted it for the young people so that they start understanding and taking their finances more seriously, okay? Fortunately enough, a couple of companies caught on, had a little bit of a bidding war, we won, all right? Myself and my partner, Yami Swana, we actually never sat down and valued the company at all. Right? We never valued the company. We weren't making any money from writing blog posts. We were just like, we're going to write blog posts because this is what we like doing. We've got day jobs. We're making enough, I guess. So we're just going to do this for the people. All of a sudden now, it's meetings. So how much do you want for this? This is great. Now there's a second company coming on board. Before we sold, there's a second company coming on board and they say, no, we now want it. We want your intellectual property. We had all of these things coming across us. And we're like, mate, what are we going to sell it for? Like, what's a good number to you? I'm alright to like 10,000 really. Like, that's great. 10,000 for something that I never made money from, right? And eventually we sold it. But then the question arose where after the sale, what was it actually worth? Did we get our fair value for it? Right? After we ran a couple of the numbers we did, and there's 4 basic valuation methods, right? I'm going to touch on each one of them because it's not a lecture, right? You can get a lot of this information off of Google, you can get it through textbooks, etc., etc. Right? Your very first method, and it's important that you take note of these things because regardless of whether you're a big or a small company, it's important that you understand what the value is of your company. Right? Your very first method there is what we call the market valuation. Right? Market valuation method. Okay? That's mainly for your listed companies, and all they're going to do there is going to take what your stock price is. Right? So by listed I mean on the JSE. Right? So they're going to take what your stock price is. They're going to multiply it by the shares outstanding, and then that value there is now the value of the company essentially, right? And that's basically what it is. So you need to know that just in case a big company decides to buy you, or you become big enough to list on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, right? And that's something that you need to know. Second one we have is what we call the discounted cash flows method, right? DCF. Right? There's 2 main things. There's 2 main calculations there. That's what we call the WACC calculation, which is a weighted average cost of capital, right? And you have what we call the APV, the adjusted present value, right? Or method. Okay. without getting into too much technical detail, the main difference between the two, right, between the WACC and your APV, is that with your weighted average cost of capital, you are taking into account debt. So if you funded some of your ideas through debt, if you went to a bank, you went to a company, whatever the case may be, there's someone you owe money to, right, that has to be put into your valuation. Now, that's an important factor because you still owe them money, right? So that's going to hinder what the value is of your company, because someone buys it over, they're going to take over your debt. Okay, understanding? Together? Right? And then within that, you still have what we call your adjusted present value. Right? And your adjusted present value is only equity. That's it. It's just equity. Right? So it's what you've put into the company. Right? Whether it be your intellectual equity, whether it be physical money, right? And you have to put a price to your intellectuality. I don't even think that's a word, but you know, it's a hiccup and it's okay, hubba. Intellectuality, just created something else. And that's what it is. So you have to value what you put into it. Right? Again, looking at Wolf and Looper, there was no real money put into the website other than buying the domain and then paying the monthly fee. That's all it was. But the intellectual, property, the intellectual stuff that we were writing down, you had to put a price to that, right? Because that wasn't free. You're not necessarily going to walk into a textbook shop and you're going to find something that's going to explain finance to you through a medium that you would understand, through examples that you would necessarily understand, right? And that's what that is. And your third option is what we call the comparables option, right? So you'd physically look at who's in your market. So for instance, in your case, you'd go look at all the other online stores. You would see, okay, well, this guy's in Europe, he's in London, he charges X amount for shipping worldwide. These people don't charge for shipping, etc., etc. You'd look at those costs. Right, and then you'd see where you are, and you'd see where you can price yourself. Right, and that's what you do. Okay, and lastly, we have what we call, what's that word now? Your price to earnings ratios, that valuation method. There's a name to it. It's your measurables ratio, right? So your price to earnings ratio is one of them. Okay. And you have your equity ratios, your debt to equity ratios, those types of things, right? So you're going to physically go through every single business ratio there is, right? Your profitability ratios, right? Your solvency ratios, your income ratios. There's a whole textbook of all of these things. Okay. And with all of those are your valuation methods. And I want to let you know that as a startup, all of them don't mean a thing. They really don't, right? Because those are all for companies that are established. Okay? Where your real valuation comes as a startup, right? And I mean, unfortunately, it's basically what your investor wants to put in. If your investor says, I'm giving you R1 million, your company is now worth R1 million, right? Unless you have R1 million lying around, right, your company could be worth 15 million rand in your mind, but if you can't put it down on paper, right, and this person is not willing to give you 15 million rand, and he's willing to give you 1 million, guess what, boo-boo? Company's worth 1 million, okay? That's what it is, right? And unfortunately, sometimes we price ourselves out the market with that because we want this funding from the big companies all the time. Right? Because there's an allure to getting money from the big companies, right? Because you have, you can do all your operational expenses will be covered by them, so you don't physically have to work 15 hours in a day, now you work 7, right? You don't necessarily have to work out of your garage, now you get a staff card and an access card and it's great and it's lovely, right? But, what are you doing? You could be potentially pricing yourself out the market if you don't know what your company's actually worth. Right? And that's where the negotiations come into play. And it's important with your negotiating team that your very first round of negotiations, so once you sit down with said company, Right? That the same people that you sat down with and actually negotiated with, once the deal is being closed, those people are still there because they understand your company, they understand your values, they understand your philosophies. If it's a brand new team, guess what's going to happen? They're going to value it for them. Right? They don't necessarily understand exactly what's going on in your company. Right? You guys with me with that? Right? Together. Hubba hubba. One more? There we go, because I'm from Joburg and stuff. Right? And that's what it is. Okay? And that's a long and short of the way you're going to value your company. Right? And then you have something that we call brand new venture, something that hasn't been done before. Right? For instance, I haven't seen anything, Gary, it is Gary, yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that before. I've seen the jukebox. Right? I can value a jukebox because I know I can put £2 in, I can select a song and it's great and it's lovely. Right? I've never seen anything like what you're creating before. Now, then you're going to sit down and you're going to say, how do I value this? Like, where's the value? And your value is going to come from however much people are willing to pay you. Right? And that's how you're going to figure it out. Right? It's the same thing with financial wellness. That's how I got bought out. When I got bought out by a company called Consolidated Financial Planning, they bought out all of my material. So all of that now is being used for financial presentations across the board for companies. So it's not just individuals anymore that I deal with. I physically go out to companies, your standard banks, your net banks, etc., etc., etc. Right? And I do presentations for them, but it's my stuff, which is great. Before, no one was really doing it. So I couldn't actually charge people, A, to get onto my website, B, when people asked me to come do a talk for them, I couldn't say, pay me 300 Rand because that's the going rate for people doing a financial wellness talk. Right? I physically had to do it for free. It had to be pro bono stuff. And then if someone says, no, here's 500 Rand for your hour, now I've got something. Now it's okay. You valued my hour at 500 Rand. Now I can move forward and say, no, of my time is worth 500 Rand. Right? If you guys heard the interview after we won, my partner was talking about 450 Rand an hour, and they asked us how much we charge for an hour. We actually didn't know, and he just blurted that out. It's like 450 Rand an hour. Sorry, what did you say? No, 450 Rand an hour. And I was like, where did you come up with that? We're trying to make some money out here. Are you just going to tell people 450 Rand an hour for us? What have we done that's so amazing, right? And funny enough, because we put it out there, when I started doing things for, other companies, etc., on my own, they ended up paying me 450 Rand an hour. Like, no, we listened to your radio show, 450 Rand, yeah, no, that's great, thank you. I was like, really? All we did was say it. Right? So now you're like, what if I said more? And every time I say that, everyone's like, Darky. I'm like, yes, I created something, I need to get paid. Right? That's what it's about. So please, with evaluation, it's extremely important. Right? It's not just about the revenue stream. It really isn't. It's a huge component of it, right? But it's not just about your revenue that you're going to make as a company, right? There's other factors, like I've said before, you as an individual, how much work you've actually put into it. Can you really put a rand value to something? Can you quantify it? Because we've got quantifiable factors, we've got qualitative factors. Quantifiable, you can count it. Qualitative, not so much. Honesty, integrity, etc., those types of things. Right? Can you really put a price on something like that? Yes, no, maybe. You can say yes, you can say no. It's not school. I'm not going to be a gold star. You know what I mean? Right? Sometimes you can, and sometimes you just can't. Right? It's just one of those things. Right? But sometimes it's just about taking the first step, taking a plunge into the unknown, and saying, well, I think I could make X amount from something. But there has to be a coherent plan behind it as to how you got to that number, because that's what an investor's going to ask you. Now, when you're in that hot seat with the investors, trust me, I've been there. Yeah, we hear all of you, and the only thing that they ever want to hear about are your financials, right? Unless you're really, really lucky and people just believe in your vision. Right? They just want to hear about the financials. Okay, how did you get there? Just show us. Yeah, no, I was just sitting on the toilet and I just thought, that would be a great number. Really? Right? So, in your personal capacity, right, it's important to value yourself. But I need you to also value yourself on a piece of paper. Right? I need you to physically say, alright, I have X amount. I do such and such. I've done this much research. Right? Again, there will be those things that you've created that might not necessarily have been done before, right? But as I've said, a lot of the cases that people have pitched tonight, I can go find. I can say, the South African warehouse of companies or whatever, in your case there, right? They charge 1,200 Rand for this, and this. Those are their services, right? And that's what you use as your benchmark. You say, okay, they charge that, but what do they give you for that amount of money? Where's the value add? And that's where you're going to catch investors, the value add. And that's why we got the price that we got for our product. Unfortunately, I can't share that price. I probably could share it with you in person, just not on a public domain like this because it was a private deal, right? But we had value add, right? And our value add was increasing the literacy and the financial literacy of the population. Right? You can't necessarily put a price on that. You can put a high price on that, but our company's willing to pay it. Right? So you kind of have to wait for them to come with a number. Right? And that's one of the other negotiating skills that I learned. Wait for them to give you a number. Don't go in there guns blazing. Wait for them to give you a number, and then you work around that number. You don't hash things out in one meeting. No. Not one meeting. You got to let these people know that you're busy. You could be doing nothing for the next 5 days. Like, absolutely nothing. You're just excited. You're like, oh my God, we got a deal. It's great. You could be doing absolutely nothing. They don't need to know that. That's what we did. But no, I just got back into the car, homie. I can't good. Right? And that's what you do. Same thing that you do in a job. Right? When they ask you the question, how much do you want to be paid? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. Never answer that question. Just, well, I need to do a little bit of research. Just a little bit of research. That's what I want to do. Because I just don't know right now. Right? You always wait for them. Because you will always price yourself too low. Or too high. More often than not, it's too low. Because you want that deal to go through that badly. Right? So, remember, wait for them to give you a price, and then negotiate. And what do you do after that? Get into your car. Just don't worry, we have to mull it over. There's other people to speak to. And you're gonna have those times where people are gonna be like, no, why don't you just take it right now? Because the deal is on the table now, right? The deal is never on the table right now, ever. Right? And I've seen a lot of people fall into that trap as well. No, the deal is on the table right now, then it takes another 3 months for the deal to clear. Why? Because big companies, it's called bureaucracy. Right? Things have to go through, there's processes. They're not just going to give you money tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. Right? They have to filter you in somehow and say, okay, this is the segment that you're going to take, and these are the people, and this is the vision that we see for it, and this is how much we're going to pay you. So you need to remember that there's a lot of bureaucracy with these things, right? So when they say to you, take the deal right now, it's on the table right now, trust me, it's going to be on the table for the next month, right? Because they're not the final deal makers, those are just the people that you're meeting, right? And it's important that the people that you're meeting, you keep meeting those exact same people going right through until you wrap the deal up. As I've said before, because if it's change of personnel, now the values, etc., the philosophies, everything is lost. Alright. So, your valuation techniques are very easy things, and I like valuation techniques because it's a lot of numbers. You can plonk that stuff into an Excel spreadsheet if you know the numbers. Right? You can plonk all of that stuff into an Excel spreadsheet. It'll take you about 3 hours to do a 3-year projection of your balance sheet, if even that long, right? Or you could hire someone, or it's 2 words. Call me. Right, I'll leave you with my number. Okay, and that's essentially what it is. All right. Valuations in itself, please don't be scared by the numbers. A lot of people are scared of numbers. Right? Lots and lots and lots and lots of people are scared by numbers. Numbers are actually a very easy thing. Right? We have Excel for that. And for everything else, you have Google. And if you don't have Google, you can call Mikel. And I won't charge you.
Oh, whoa.
For the first consultation.
It was coming.
No, but generally my very first consultation was always free, right? So that's what I do, right? And that's valuations in a nutshell, because we're trying to beat time and stuff, and it's, Carlicha, and, No, I'm joking, that's a joke. I'm from the hood in Joburg, it's okay. I'm from Joburg, guys.
That's what Joburg's talking about.
It's a Joburg thing.
Respect us, please.
Sustain. That's my homie right there. Right. And that's me. So thank you guys. I know it sounded a little bit like a lecture, but I really hope there's some valuable tips that you picked up from it. Right? And just a couple of things that we did and that I did, and I'm where I am now. It's great.
The question I'm going to ask you is a question that actually was asked to me earlier today, but I think I'm going to ask it to you now. Being a financial planner, standing in front of us, I think you are in a better position to answer this question. In fact, it's been hindering me the whole day. First of all, I must say I'm quite amazed by your presentation. It's very interesting. How much do you think in South Africa will you need to start up a business? And if the funding is there, what are the challenges that we have as young people starting up our own enterprises? And how can we overcome these challenges?
Firstly, the need to start your own business, right, is imperative. It's hard. Right? I feel like you need to do it because I've always had this vision that South Africa in itself can become its own Silicon Valley. Right? I don't know if you guys know Silicon Valley out in the United States, where Google was made, Twitter, etc., Facebook, all of those guys. Right? We have the power, we have the capacity to make our own Silicon Valley. Right? Why we don't do it, the second part of your question, and the biggest challenge that we face is ourselves. That's the biggest challenge when it comes to being an entrepreneur, is yourself. Right? It's the fear. Right? Oh my God, can I do this? Right? That's your biggest challenge. There's nothing else. You have a great idea, because the thing is, you created that idea. You created it. It's in your mind, it's there. You just had to take the first step. And because you failed to take the first step because of fear, it's going to remain an idea. That's essentially what it is, because we're comfortable. Right? And sorry, the last part of your question was?
Yes, it was how do we as young people in South Africa, young entrepreneurs in South Africa, startups, how do we overcome these financial challenges we face on a daily basis? Against capital, sanction finding, government institutions, having the grants but you can't access them.
Right.
Investors.
Pretty easy.
And that fear, of course.
Yeah. Once you get over the fear, right, it's all about doing the research. Unfortunately, guys, there's no easy way in, there's no easy way out. You have to physically go out there and do the research, because there is someone out there who will help you. Right? And I've said this all the time, your net worth isn't about how much money you have. Your net worth is your network. Right? So if you're sitting at home and you're watching Generations on Friday night instead of being at the hookup dinner, then that's your problem. Right? You can't then cry funding, right? Because you haven't physically gone out there to look for it. You haven't physically gone out there to do the research. You haven't physically gone out there to see who's funding what. Right? And that's essentially what it is. It's the hardest thing to do, trying to find finance in this country, right? But you have a way out, and that's with SAVCA, the South African Venture Capitalist Association. Right? They have a whole list of people who are ready to invest in you. Right? Post-2012, venture capitalism has risen in the country. Right? So if you have a good enough idea and you're ready to go pitch to them, they're ready to listen, right? And that's all it is. You literally just have to get up off your bum and get to it. Exactly, and get hooked up. Hubba hubba.
Haba haba.
Hubba hubba.
Homeboy, I have a quick question. You actually said you have to actually firstly pay yourself a salary, right? That's actually showing appreciation to yourself for your hard work. The question is, do you believe investing is part of paying yourself?
Yes, I do. I really do. Then, do you want me to expand on that? Or is
Yes, sure. Leave your back.
Okay, by investing in yourself, okay, I firmly believe that already taking the first step in becoming an entrepreneur is investing in yourself already, right? And if they're investing in yourself, are you speaking now, putting money away and investing, etc., for a future gain?
Yes, that's correct. Like for let's take me for instance. I work for an investing company, but our main focus is actually investing in gold because it never depreciates. It always appreciates, and that's what we have actually been looking at. So investing in gold, just for yourself or for your loved ones, because most people always ask this question. Did you question your book? What if I die? Then if you die, then you have no worries once you're dead. So
But you have a family. You have people to take care of.
yes, which is where it also comes in. They, if you invest, you are given a platform to list the beneficiaries. People you trusted that they would actually take care of your belongings. So we shouldn't actually be asking that, but we just need to be believing in the people that we actually that we love. Yeah. So that is actually my understanding, and okay, that is my opinion in the world of investing. As I'm a new person in it, and I actually starting to like it. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. From a financial planning point of view, right, the risk cover is probably one of the most important things you can have, especially if you have a family, right? Life insurance is important. It's one of those things. Don't worry, I'm not selling you a product. I'm just letting you know. I don't sell products. I do advice. All right. So life insurance is one of those things that's extremely important because what happens if you pass away? Those are things you have to think about. What am I going to do when I retire? Those are real things you have to think about, right? So when I say pay yourself, I'm saying pay yourself, but you need to know when the next one is coming. You need to know, am I providing for my future? Are my children covered? Is my spouse covered? Are my debts covered? Those are all the types of things that need to be going through your mind, right? And as an entrepreneur, and if that's what you're doing solely and you don't have a day job, right, those costs are here. They're not at the back of your mind, they're in the front, they're at the forefront, and that's what it is. So investing in yourself is an extremely important thing.